Nowadays, the Islam is one of the most questioned religions in terms of the theory and practice of human rights. Many Muslim countries are criticized by international organizations that accuse them of maintaining practices that don't respect human rights. But is this suspicion justified, or is it part of Western stereotypes? In order to try to give an answer to this question, we are going to make an analysis of human rights according to the Quran, the Sharia, and the Islamic Declaration of Human Rights. The Quran recognizes both men and women as important beings that are parts of the creation's duality. Therefore, men and women have the same importance, but with a complementary character. Just like good and evil are part of the creation, also men and women are an integrating duality. The Quran also recognizes the equal dignity of all human beings. They all have the same value, and there's no reason to discriminate for social, economic, ethnic, racial, or religious reasons. All the human beings are part of the same family, so no attitude of superiority can be justified. The only distinction that is recognized by God is between the people that do good or wrong. The main right defended by the Quran is the right of life, with the argument that killing someone that has never killed anyone or corrupted the earth is like killing the whole humankind. One of the most criticized aspects of Islam is that it considers retaliation like a legitimate form of justice that establishes the equivalence between the damage and the punishment. However, the Quran gives priority to forgiveness and reconciliation because compassion and patience are two of the major virtues. So to give up retaliation can be a way for the expiation of guilt. Also, in terms of the relationship with other religions, the Quran has a lot of passages that express respect for Jews and Christians. The Prophet Muhammad considers them as people of the Scripture, because they believe in the revelation of the same God.
Considering this principle, the Islam has created its own declaration on human rights, of which base and foundation are found in the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Sharia. The first of them is the declaration made by UNESCO in 1981. Such document recognizes all rights confirmed in the Declaration of UN in 1948, among which are found right to life, to liberty, to equality, to justice, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, freedom of opinion and expression, among many others. Being inspired by the Quran, it makes important contributions on the social rights field and the economic order. In the same way, it recognizes the religious rights of the Muslim minorities. A second example is the declaration adopted during the 19th Islamic Conference of Foreign Ministers held in Cairo in 1990. The base on which such declaration is sustained corresponds to Sharia, and pursued objective is the protection of the human being towards exploitation and oppression, as well as the confirmation of their freedom and their right to a life in accordance with Sharia. It includes the fundamental rights and liberties as irrevocable part of Muslim religion that nobody can abolish. The condition of women in Muslim societies is one of the things that more scandalizes Western men and women who judge negatively the topic. Frequently, such judgments are based on topic and preconceptions strongly deep-rooted in the social imaginary. It is true that there in the Quran clearly discriminating texts aiming women, such as those that make reference to the predominance of males and the authority of husband among their wives. There are also texts that show the difference between Muslims and non-Muslims, being these last ones rejected by the Prophet. The present environment of freedom of religion and freedom of conscience, as well as the religion and cultural pluralism, demands that the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Sharia be interpreted in the new historic context of their society. The Muslim law must guarantee that non-Muslim people and women have the same rights that the male Muslims have.
Human rights in Saudi Arabia. Though scholars of the Quran recognize that exist inalienable rights for men and women who live in Muslim society, we're still questioning, does exist human rights in the framework of the secular state and not in the framework of the religion? Well, for the last question, we're going to focus in a specific case and we will analyze what is regarded as an affront to human rights in Western societies. Saudi Arabia is a dynastic monarchy and one of the most strict states when we talk about Islamic law. In this country, the security is guaranteed by the secular and religious police. However, the interpretation and different points of view about what human rights means take them to realize punishments that in Western are considered like not very conventional. In the case of legal rights, as military agents, as religious police or mutawin can submit to the prisoners to torture, abuse, and beatings. The punishments that they can use are beheadings, stoning, and executions. Freedom of expression and press are considerably limited. The TV, radio, internet, and literature are subject to a strict regimen. By other side, the issue of treatment of women is the most striking, because we said before, as men as women have an equal position just for their human condition, but commonly women are victims of systematic discrimination. The domestic violence and violation are problems that women suffer often. In other situations, women can travel or get entered in a hospital without their husband's permission. Even in the public transportation, there is a kind of segregation because women should sit in the back of the bus, and of course, it's totally necessary that they must wear an abaya, which covers all the body, being this the practice most criticized for Western societies because it is considered like a sign of repression.
Despite the environment, the human rights movement in the region has grown. NGOs like Amnesty International has worked with and for the human rights defenders around the world. In Israel and Palestine, human rights organizations have been working together, litigating cases before the Israeli Supreme Court. They have filed dozens of petitions to stop the 700-kilometer wall, which the Israeli army is building mostly on illegally confiscated Palestinian land inside the West Bank. They have also played a crucial role, because without the presence of these human rights defenders, Palestinian villagers they will not have been able to remain in their homes. In Kuwait, for example, human rights awareness has grown. Groups such as the Kuwait Human Rights Society have worked to ensure efforts, have encouraged the government to commit to include human rights education into schools. Also, women's rights movement have led them to the right to vote and stand in election for the first time in 2005. The women's movement in Iran, including the Campaign for Equality, has been working tirelessly to overturn aspects of legislation which discriminate against women. In Iraq, for instance, human rights defenders have been calling to form an independent commission to replace the Ministry of Human Rights in order to allow the involvement of the civil society. Also, the Kurdistan regional government modified the personal status law to include more progressive clauses. In Bahrain, several human rights NGOs have been established. They have also monitored, documented, and campaigned against human rights violations, including arbitrary arrest and detention, torture, and unfair trials. In Qatar, the Human Rights Committee continues to raise cases involving human rights violations with the authorities and keep bringing relevant cases to the attention of the UN human rights mechanisms. The authorities in Saudi Arabia, which have increased the visibility of human rights, in August of 2008, the former urged to the government to end the practice of child marriages. However, the movement has not been concluded. The effort of human rights defenders has made a difference in order to progress, but in countries such as Egypt, Iran, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Libya, Oman, and Syria, exceptional courts exist, including military and security courts, which are used to try civilians.